So here we have the rump cap muscle that has been seamed off the original D-cut rump, and have a little bit of cleaning up to do. We've got our triangular wedge of fat, which is the one we followed down through the natural seam. We have a thick silver gristle, and we have a little bit of a chain muscle. So it's trimming this down to an acceptable level. So we'll take off a little bit of underlying meat, and that can be used for further processing into mince. And now we can remove this large wedge of fat. Now looking so that we don't cut in and damage the underlying muscle of the rump. Just peeling that back across over the meat. And also coming with this piece of fat is a thick silver gristle. So again, that needs to be removed. And then here we have a thick silver gristle, and following the contour of that muscle around the excess fat on the edge. So to remove this gristle, I'm just going to put the tip of the knife shallowly underneath that gristle, and then just skinning off lightly, again trying to keep it as clean as we can on the underside so we don't have any cuts or incisions. You can now see the fine texture of the meat up this end, but the long coarse grain of the muscle here. Traditionally, this would have been cut at this angle into steaks, but if you look at the grain, we'd actually be cutting down the grain of that muscle, which gives us a chewy bite. So the positive aspect of seam butchery is that we take out the individual muscle, and we can actually turn this round and cut across the grain at its narrowest. So we're going across it rather than cutting down traditionally the normal way. Finally though, before I slice this, I'm just going to reduce some of the fat thickness so I get an even covering. Taking a little bit of the fat off. I'm not taking all of it. I'm just making it more plate presentable. So just checking, we've removed all of the thick silver gristle, any excess fat, and what we're left with is a trimmed rump cap. We have two methods here. We can either produce a joint or we can cut it into steaks. So I will show you both methods. Here's another cap that I did earlier. Identical trimmed, just the external fat level. Happy with that. For the jointing method, we can cut this or serve it whole if we wished, but to make a smaller joint, I'm going to cut down the center to give me a nice uniform portion. I have one small section and one longer. I'm going to put some roasting bands, or we'll tie the piece up. The bands go on nice and easy. I'm not squeezing the meat, as we often forget that meat consists of a lot of moisture, and if we tie this up too tight, we will be squeezing that juice out of the meat during the cooking process. So we want to keep the succulence in. So there's our bands around the joint, evenly spaced, nice and tidy. We can use that as one joint. We can keep that as an individual joint and put bands on as well. And we can also just reduce the size of the bigger portion and cut that into two smaller mini joints. And there you have 3 little mini rump cap joints. Alternatively, we can take the same piece, and as I said before, instead of cutting traditionally down the grain, we can turn this around and cut across the grain, and I'll cut at a slight angle, and this will produce us our rump cap steaks, or what is also known as picanha steaks. Now when you cut a steak, you may need just to reduce the fat level, but that will be down to personal requirement. And again, just getting it even level, and that is our picanha steak, or our rump cap muscle.